following program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
Good evening, everyone. Hi. Glad you can make it out here this evening. It's right at about 6:12, which means if I have this timed correctly, we will get you out of here before the first pitch. That is my pledge to you. Now, I'm also going to hold the candidates to that in terms of helping me by staying within all the time limits here tonight, and I'll go over that in just a second. But first, I want to welcome the audience here this evening. Thank you for coming out on game night of the World Series. That shows some dedication and commitment on your part, and I appreciate you taking the effort, and I know those that you're about to hear from also appreciate that here tonight. We do have this televised, so there will be viewers that get to watch this, not just tonight, but over the days to come leading up to the election. And I also want to give a special thank you to the Union Leader, Nashua Patch, and the Telegraph, all three of whom are here this evening as well, providing some nice coverage to make sure that all the residents in the city get an opportunity to read or hear or see what is said here this evening. I know many of you in the room. For those who I haven't had the pleasure of meeting before, my name is Chris Williams. I serve as the president of the Chamber of Commerce here in the greater Nashua area, and it's my privilege to be here tonight moderating this forum with all of those who are seeking office here to lead our city for the next couple of years, some of them for the next 4 years, depending on which seat they're running for. This is an opportunity for all of us here in the city to hear from both our ward candidates and the at-large candidates. There are other platforms out there, but this is the one where you actually get to see everyone together in one setting. I do want to give a couple of regrets this evening to a couple who could not be here. Kathy Vitale, many of you know her as the sitting alderman in Ward 1. Her father passed away this afternoon, unfortunately. Otherwise, she would have been here, but obviously family comes first, even when it comes to politics, and she's where she needs to be tonight. Ken Siegel sends his apologies. He is actually at Game 2 down in Boston. I'm going to try not to hold that against him. I think I would probably be the same if I actually had tickets show up on my desk this afternoon. Just kidding. I would still be here, but against my wishes. Casey Crane will be late. She is a candidate for Ward 2. Her son had a special event this evening, so she will be here, but she'll be arriving a little bit late, so please excuse her if she sneaks in here in about 15 minutes or so. And then the only one that we never did hear from was the candidate from Ward 1, Sean McGinnis. We tried several times to make sure he was aware of tonight's forum, but we never did hear from him, so maybe he'll show up at some point. Otherwise, everyone else is here, and I think this is a very neat opportunity to hear from so many different people who are interested in leading our city over the next few years. And we will, over the next hour and 45 minutes, give them an opportunity to not only introduce themselves, but to also share some thoughts about where they see the city heading on certain issues that are important to the community and certainly important to the business community. We've tried to come up with some questions tonight that are relevant to all of us, regardless of what we do here in the city, whether or not we're active in business or other sectors, but we also made sure that we included a couple questions that the business community is primarily interested in, given the fact that this is a chamber-hosted forum. I'm going to ask each candidate to give 1 minute worth of introduction of themselves here tonight so that you know who they are, and then after every candidate has had a chance to introduce himself for 1 minute, we will then go into a series of questions. The format for this will follow as such. I will ask a question. The at-large candidates will all get an opportunity to answer that question. I'm then going to divide the ward candidates up into 2 different groups: odd numbered wards, so think wards 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9, and even numbered wards. For question 1, an odd numbered question, the odd numbered ward alderman will get to answer that question. Question number 2, in addition to the at-large candidates, the even-numbered ward candidates will answer that question. What that means is that once we get through 5 or 6 questions, all of the at-large candidates will get an opportunity to answer every question, and each of the ward candidates will get a chance to answer half of the questions tonight. We'd love to have them answer all of them, but we would be here till 10 p.m. If that were the case. We're also going to keep very strict time limits. My colleague, Shawnee, is in the very front row. She has time placards for each of the candidates. They have already been prepped that they will have 1 minute not only to give their opening statements, but to answer each question tonight. She will show them a 1-minute card when they begin their answer. She will keep that up, and then she'll go to 30 seconds, showing them that they have half of a minute left. She'll then have a 10-second warning, asking them to wrap up what they're saying, and then she'll have a card that says stop. When I see that card go up, I will wait for that candidate to finish their sentence, whatever they're saying, and then we will go to the next question or the next candidate to give their response. I will try to be fairly strict with those 1-minute time limits, again, so that we can keep on a regular schedule and make sure that we're out of here for that first pitch. Does that work for everyone? Does that work for the audience? Okay, excellent. With that, we are going to start with introductions, and I'm going to start in alphabetical order with the at-large candidates, and we will then go by wards 1 through wards 9, and then we'll go into our first question. So by alphabetical order, starting with the at-large candidates, we'll get to hear first from Mark Cookson for 1 minute.
Thank you very much. I'm Mark Cookson. I'm running for your Alderman at Large to be re-elected. I've been on the board for 8 years, and I think that we've done a good job, and I've done a good job of representing the people through a variety of interactions. I'm always available to the public, and on a weekly time period, I actually host a radio show to try to get input from the public as well. So I've been the chairman of the infrastructure for the last 2 years, and I'm looking forward to continuing on the Board of Aldermen as your elected representative. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. We'll hear next from David Dean.
Good evening. My name's David Dean. I live at 56 Manchester Street. Married to my wife, Susan Maynard. Not the Maynard-Nashua one, unfortunately. We could use the tires, but for 36 years, we have 5 children. I have 2 grandchildren that I rescued from California that are now living with us. The family moved back to New Hampshire. They were most impressed by the "Live Free or Die" on the license plate, and I'm happy to have them back in the community. I've served. This is my 3rd term. I've been on many committees. I've chaired budget. I've been on finance, vice chair of finance, infrastructure, human affairs. I've been on just all of them except for personnel, I believe. And I'm looking to continue serving. I enjoy it. I think I offer a voice of reason. I understand the operations of city government, and I'm just enjoying my service to the community. 10 seconds. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, David. Next we'll hear
I got the first 10-second one. So.
I'll take your 10 seconds.
Next we'll hear from Paula Johnson.
Thank you. Good evening. I am former Alderman at Large, former member of the Board of Ed, and former New Hampshire State Representative Paula Johnson. I'd like to thank Chris Williams and everyone in the Chamber of Commerce to make this night available to us so you can listen to us. On November 5th, the citizens of Nashua will vote. I am returning for Alderman at Large because I have seen changes that demand my expertise and knowledge of the citizens, the local government, and the taxpayers. Crime has risen, spending has risen, taxes has risen. We need common sense to have it all appropriate for you by accountability, less spending, lower taxes. I believe and have believed that government should be open and transparent to every citizen. Spending is out of control. As we all know, our property assessments are down, personal income is down, but our taxes keep rising. We need to return common sense from our elected officials, and I am the experienced candidate to come back and take care of our business. Thank you.
Thank you, Paula. Well done. Next, we'll hear from Dan Moriarty.
Hi, I'm Dan Moriarty, and 25 years ago, I moved from Kansas to New England. I studied for 10 years at MIT and got a Doctor of Science in Applied Physics. My 17-year career as a team leader, developing advanced systems and technology, I've established a reputation as a dedicated hard worker who gets things done. As the alderman representing Ward 9, I'm proud of what I've accomplished these past 2 years, and I'm proud of my ability to work with my colleagues, even those who don't always vote the way I do. I've had 1,000 conversations with people around this city, listening to what you want, and I'm confident that I understand what Nashua needs.
Thank you, Dan. Next, we'll get to hear from Barbara Presley.
Thank you, Chris, and thank you, Chamber of Commerce, for allowing to have this forum. We all appreciate it. I've lived in Nashua for 35 years, and I've been involved in the community for those 35 years in various and sundry places. I've served in both chambers of the legislature. I was the original Historic District Commission chairman. I've been doing many, many things for 35 years. However, my history with New Hampshire goes back to 1635. I care about our schools. I care about the environment, both the built and the natural. I believe that I am fair, I care, and I'm fierce. When I care about something, I really stay with it until we get the job done. I think two of the major issues this season, we all are much aware of the increase in crime, and I think we're aware that it has changed in the type of crime that we're having. So one of my goals is to do everything possible to bring down the crime rate. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. And then lastly, for the at-large, we'll hear from Diane Sheehan.
Thank you. Thank you for hosting this tonight, and thanks to everyone who's attended. I'm Diane Sheehan. I'm Alderman of Ward 3, and I'm running at large. I have proven results as a consensus builder in the last 4 years, having successfully initiated 35 pieces of legislation. Using my business experience, I have worked collaboratively on neighborhood initiatives to increase quality mixed-income housing and to improve local businesses, leading to marked improvements in Railroad Square in the Lowell Street area and reductions in crimes in these neighborhoods, bucking the citywide trends. All the while, our tax rate was stable, maintaining a AAA rating from Fitch when more than $20 million was downshifted from the state. Focusing on improving and collaborating for solutions works in business, and it works in city government. We face an enormous opportunity right now with the Broad Street Parkway, the Mill area redevelopment possibilities, the Renaissance project redevelopment, and potentially rail. It's important that we have a city government committed to collaborative progress, and we need leadership that's committed to doing that, and I feel I've demonstrated that for the last 4 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Diane. We'll now move to the ward candidates. I'm going to ask, as we move to the ward candidates, some of you have mics that you'll be sharing with each other. If that's the case, just be sure that you move it pretty close to you so that the TV cameras can pick you up. We'll go to Ward 2 with Rick Dowd.
Hello, I'm Rick Dowd. I'm the current alderman from Ward 2. Live at 8 Ascot Park in Nashua. And I've been on the board for 2 years. Serve on the budget committee. I'm the chair of the Joint Special School Committee. I'm a vice chair of the infrastructure committee and also on the construction committee, school construction. Prior to my experience on the board of aldermen, I was 10 years on the board of education, serving as its president at one term. And before that, I spent many hours on this stage in the ZBA as chairman of the zoning board of adjustment. And prior to that, I was 15 years on the airport authority and was chair of the airport authority. So I've had a lot of experience. I feel I bring that experience to the job here as alderman of Ward 2. And I'm also a systems engineering functional manager at BAE Systems here in Nashua.
Thank you, Rick. We'll hear next from Eleanor Casey Crane.
Hi, I'm Eleanor Casey Crane. I have a cold tonight. I have to apologize. I live in Ward 2. I also was the state representative for Ward 2 for 3 terms. I was very proud to pass a bill and wrote the law, closed a serious loophole at that time, the sexual offender law. I actually have an awful lot of experience in communication, which is what I hope to bring to our ward. I was a field producer in Washington for 2 years for BIX out of New York. I had a radio show for 7 years on WCAP in Lowell when I was in my 20s. I'm currently a host on CAP. I'm concerned about accountability, I'm concerned about crime, and I'm concerned about communication. We have not had regular ward meetings in my ward. I want to change that. I want to bring accountability to government because I believe accountability is the basis for every good government. I spent a lot of time at the State House. I know how legislation works. I have a 5-year-old. I just came for an event at Charlotte Ave Elementary School. We did some pumpkins, we did some pizza. It was a great opportunity for everyone to share. Communication is the basis, and accountability is the basis for good government. Thank you.
Thank you, Casey. We'll move to Ward 3, and we'll hear first from Paul Shea.
My name is Paul Shea. I am a candidate for Ward 3 Alderman. You may be aware I've worked on several community projects over the past few years, one being the Gate City Community Gardens project, addressing the issue of a 70-person waiting list at the community garden here. I run a downtown fundraiser event to enliven downtown and raise money for local charities called Fancy Friday. I've been an organizing member of the Nashua Block Party Committee, and I headed up the event that was down at Atherton Park along with Alderman Sheehan. I am very interested in increasing my service to the community in this greater role, and I hope that Ward 3 will send me to the Board of Aldermen to continue to have a positive impact on our community.
Thank you, Paul. We get to hear next from Dave Schoeneman, also a candidate for Ward 3.
Good evening and thank you. My name is David Schoeneman. I'm a candidate for Ward 3 Alderman. I live on Webster Street. I've walked the neighborhoods and knocked on a lot of doors in the course of this campaign, and I'm more of a listener than a talker. I knock on the door, introduce myself, and I ask people, what's on your mind as a resident of Nashua, or more important, as a resident of Ward 3? And the word that I get back is that people feel they're not represented here in city government. My goal is to be the representative for those voices in Ward 3 that these people feel are not being heard. I also have a business background. I'm grateful for the opportunity here at the Chamber of Commerce. I have a business background prior to switching into aviation as a new career. And my business background and experience, education, I think, enables me to focus on Chamber of Commerce issues, downtown issues, develop an economy, develop a vibrant downtown, while at the same time serving the needs of Ward 3 residents. Thank you.
Thank you, David. We'll turn to Ward 4, and we'll hear first from Pam Brown.
Thank you, Chris and the Chamber, for giving us this opportunity, and thank you all for attending tonight. I'm running for office as the Ward 4 Alderman because I believe that I can make a big difference in our community. As a state rep with a formal business education and career, including both business and human services, I can bring a fresh, new perspective, one that is based on sound business practices and compassion for all our citizens, regardless of their circumstances. I'm committed to achieving win-win solutions to the complex challenges we may face in the upcoming years, and also very committed to business to government transparency. I believe that we need to adjust our priorities here in Nashua. Public education is the lifeblood of our communities and of our future. We need to make sure we have better schools, good schools, and keep within our budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Pam. We'll now hear from Arthur Craffey.
Thank you, Chris. I also want to thank the Chamber for hosting this event. I do want to send my condolences out to Kathy Vitale and her family tonight. I've had 4 years on the current Board of Aldermen. So I'm still seeking my third term. I sit on the Personnel and Advisory Committee. I sit on the Finance Committee and the Personnel Administrative Affairs Committee, and I sit on Personnel Economic Development. I have over 30 years of business management experience and leadership. I did 25 years in the military. I have a diverse business background. I know how to get things done. I'm not a follower. As I've many times, I don't think there's been as many aldermen written up in the paper as I have of alerting the public to problems. Pennachuck's going to raise their rates. I raised an issue. The policemen are going to put up something new. Thing's going to cost $15,000. I raised the issue. I just want an opportunity to continue representing the ward. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Art. We'll now turn to Ward 5, and we'll hear from the mics, starting with Mike Tabasco.
I wasn't sure if you were going to go still alphabetical.
We're going to reverse alphabetical for the wards.
Anyway, thank you, Chris, and the Chamber and everyone for coming out tonight. My name is Mike Tabasco, and I'm running for re-election to a 5th term as the Ward 5 Alderman. Over the past 8 years, I have developed solid relationships throughout City Hall and the community, and I pride myself on being a get-it-done kind of guy. I actually have real-world private sector business experience that complements and enhances my various committee and liaison assignments, such as Chair of Planning and Economic Development and liaison to both the Downtown Advisory Committee and the Fire Commission. That experience, combined with a little common sense, gives me the tools to best represent my constituents in Ward 5, as well as the citizens across the entire city of Nashua. Thank you for coming out tonight. I take this opportunity to ask those of you from Ward 5 to please vote for me on November 5th. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mike. And now I'll get to hear from Mike Susi.
Thank you. And Chris, thank you for the front row seat. My name is Mike Susi, and my history with Nashua started with my first breath. I'm 53 years old, and I've been living in Nashua for 53 years. I want to introduce my wife, Carrie. Say hi. Okay. I'm going to talk about real-world experience. I'm a retired Nashua police officer, 20 years. While I was a police officer, 5 of those years, I worked as a school resource officer in our public schools. I was also the PAL program director for 5 years, and I also started the PAL cross-country program. I was a firefighter before that for 3 years. So I understand what these departments need, but I also understand there's a difference between a need and a want, and I'm going to look out for the interests of our taxpayers. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mike. We'll now get to hear from Ward 6, and we'll start with Paul Chassie.
You're going reverse.
Oh, you're right. I'm sorry, you're right. We should start with Kathy Snyder. My apologies, Kathy. Reverse alphabetical order.
Hi, my name is Kathy Snyder, and I want to thank you for inviting me here this evening to introduce myself. I live at 7 Jalbert Drive with my husband, Glenn, and my 2 daughters, Megan and Jillian. My family has been tremendously supportive throughout this campaign, and I want to thank them for their patience and understanding. I am truly blessed. I'm an associate broker for RE/MAX Properties, where I've worked for the last 2 years, and I've been selling real estate for the last 10. I've helped many people settle down in this great city of ours, and they've planted roots, and it's been a tremendous reward for me. I have strong leadership skills, communication, and negotiating skills, which will be an asset in representing Ward 6. My focus is getting my ward's voice heard in the many issues that we're facing now and in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kathy. And now we'll get to hear from Paul Chassie.
Hi, I'm Paul Chassie. I'm a Nashua native. I live at 26 Balcom Street. This is my 5th year in this particular term or whatever as the Ward 6 representative. When you face these hard decisions on the board, you're not just representing your ward. You are representing all the residents of Nashua. So when you make some tough decisions and you vote on contracts or things, it affects everybody. I got on the board some 6 years ago due to the fact that I was tired of seeing people that having problems paying their taxes, people that are on fixed incomes, people that are losing their jobs. And I try to remain conservative on the board. I hope to represent the Ward 6 again the next term, and I want to see everybody get out there on that day and vote for your candidates. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Paul. We'll now turn to Ward 8. We're going to skip over Ward 7 because that ward is unopposed, and we'll go to Ward 8, starting with Marianne Malizzigolia.
Our table's rocking, so if we look like we're quaking, it's the table. Thank you, and thank you, Chris, and thank you to the Chamber, and thank you for all of you coming out this evening. I'm Marianne Malizzigolia. I live at 2 Amble Road. I have lived in Nashua for 17 years. My husband and I are now experiencing that empty nester situation. Our daughter Caroline came here when she was 5. We hoped we'd be here for her to graduate from Bicentennial, and she graduated from Nashua High South. So we feel fortunate that she was able to take advantage of our schools. I think when all of us go out, people ask why, and like many of the other candidates here, I have the interest and to serve not only the ward, but as Alderman Chassie said, when you serve even as a ward alderman, you're serving the city. The other important part of that is time, and every time I run for an office, I think, what do I think the next 2 years will hold, and will I have the time? And once again, that answer came back yes. As a resident of Nashua, I am a former Board of Education member. I also serve on the Nashua PAL Board of Directors, and at the state level, I serve on the Board of Directors for New Hampshire Project Learning Tree, which is an environmental education organization that's affiliated with a national group that was founded by the Forestry Federation.
Time is up, Marianne.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Jack Courier.
Hi, I'm Jack Courier. I blew into town in 1985. I live at 6 New Searles Road. My wife and I bought that home in 1993, thinking it was a starter home, but we like the neighbors, we like the neighborhood, and time goes by. After, it was about 1997, I developed an interest in serving back the city. At the time, I was working with Kathy Hirsch and Brian McCarthy, asking them what could I do. I like conservation efforts. I got on the Conservation Commission for 5 years, and I wanted to step it up, and I reached out, and a few people like Brian had suggested the zoning board. At the time, it was very tumultuous, so I joined the zoning board, and I've been on that board. I currently sit on the board taking a leave of absence. It's been 10 years now, serving in every position up through chair. And I'd like to step up and help the city a little bit more. I'm an engineer during the day. I do medical devices, and in the evening, I spend a lot of time here in this third-floor auditorium. Thank you.
I'm so sorry, Jack. Next, we'll turn to Ward 9, and we'll hear from Jeff Cox. Well, yeah.
Yeah, my name is Jeff Cox. I've resided here in Ward 9 for 27 years. Like Jack, I bought what we thought was a starter home, and I don't know what we're starting, but we're still starting something. Married to my beautiful wife in the back there, Becky, for 27 years. We have 3 children, 2 girls and a boy. The 2 girls have graduated from the Nashua school system and gone on to higher education. My son, Timmy, is... I don't know how I'd word it, but he's a junior now, working his way through Nashua High South right now. I served 2 terms as Alderman for Ward 9, and I served on many committees. I was the chairman of infrastructure for 2 terms. I was on budget. I was the chair of personnel and administrative affairs for a while, and several other committees. I was also the liaison for the Board of Ed. But most importantly, I want to be one that brings professionalism, civility, and decorum to our chamber. We need leaders that are focused, willing to do the work it takes to move the matters forward for our city. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jeff. And that concludes the initial introductions for the night. We're now going to move into a few questions. And as I said earlier, we'll start with the at-large candidates, and then, because this is question number 1, I will turn to the odd-numbered ward candidates. So since we don't have anyone from Ward 1, that means Ward 3 will be the first of the ward candidates to answer this particular question. So if you're from an odd-numbered ward, listen carefully for this question. For the at-large candidates, because Mark Cookson got to go first for the intros, I'm going to start with David Dean. Given the initial response to this question, we'll go right down the line, and then Mark Cookson will end with his answer for the at-large candidates, and then we'll move to Ward 3. So, David Dean, you get this first response to this question, and we'll start with a business-oriented question, given that it's the chamber hosting tonight. I'd like to give each of you, who already sits on the Board of Aldermen, an opportunity to brag about yourself a little bit. Tell us one single thing that you're most proud of, that you have voted on or that you have done as a sitting alderman to support the growth of Nashua's businesses. If you are a challenger not currently on the board, think about one thing that you want to champion, one singular thing that you would wish to champion specifically as it relates to businesses in Nashua. David?
Well, to be quite honest with you, Chris, we don't really do much for business on the Board of Aldermen. Okay? What we've looked at and what needs to be addressed, in my opinion anyways, is when we look at these land use ordinances that we had a painstaking process a number of terms ago. We went through that, and more often than not, I hear from some of the members of the different land use boards when issues are brought up by developers or by businesses that want to do something, that go through this painstaking, cumbersome task to try to get something accomplished, which looks like it could easily be done administratively. So I think one thing we really have to do is go back and take a good hard look and review our land use codes is what we really need to do.
Thank you very much, David. Next, we'll hear from Paula Johnson. And just a reminder, everyone has 1 minute on this answer. Thank you, Dave. You did very well with that. Paula?
Thank you. Looking at downtown, you're seeing a lot of empty storefronts right now, and that's really a shame as we're going through all the sidewalk construction. What do we do to bring businesses down? I spoke to the Economic Development Director, and I asked him, how can we bring businesses back down to downtown? First of all, I think the parking meters are a little bit high. I think you need to lower that. And when I was on the Board of Aldermen, I was against the parking meters because you want to make it a friendly downtown to bring people down, where they can go to the mall, they can shop for nothing. Let's bring them downtown and open them up with open arms. The other thing is that we have people living above the stores. What do we have to offer them? And I was talking about, let's bring in small businesses back in to downtown like a superette. So what happens if Shaw's goes out like Shop and Save did, Shop and Stop did in Hudson? We need to bring in small like superettes so people have the convenience of a store right there in downtown. We need to open it up, make it friendly. I think once the construction's done with, we should hopefully get some more storefronts, but we need the Economic Development Director to really go out there and push downtown Nashua now.
Thank you very much, Paula. Dan Moriarty.
There are not a lot of opportunities for us as an alderman to address the issues that to advance businesses, but there are a few. One example that I was one of the few to vote against was the purchase for the Crown Street commuter rail. Now, why does that benefit businesses? And the reason I say that is because I was advocating it being in the south end of town because the city already owns land downtown that was perfectly adequate for a downtown commuter rail. So we should put it there, so if the focus is, if we already have a focus on downtown, what we need to do is balance the city's focus to a citywide balance. By having the commuter rail down at one of the commuter rail stops being down at exit 1 or exit 2, you service all the southern New Hampshire, the southern Nashua businesses. In addition to, there's a corporate park down there at exit 1 that's being developed right now that would benefit immensely from having a station just a short commute from that. In fact, okay.
Thank you very much, Dan. Barbara Presley.
Thank you. I have been on the front line to try to get passenger rail to Nashua for about the last 10 years. I'm still hopeful. We're waiting for a report, and we'll go ahead with that full steam. I was one of the first supporters of the Cotton Mill Square. I live at Clock Tower, and I know what a great housing project that will be. It's a wonderful reuse of our historic mill buildings. The thing that I just did recently that I'm really most proud of is I sponsored having the parking meter beginning time returned to 9 o'clock. It's been, they had it 8, and it was a huge hardship on the small businesses in town, particularly the barbers, the small eateries. I think they are very, very happy that the parking meter time will start at 9 o'clock and not 8. And so I do try to look out for the little guys, and these were the little businesses that suffered quite a bit from that change. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. Diane Sheehan.
Thank you. I would say that I'm most proud of what some have called the renaissance of Railroad Square. When I first came to office and I looked, that was one of the most blighted areas. In fact, it was labeled federally a blighted area. By working with the businesses and the people that live in that area, we've worked to improve the facades, to work with the Historic District Commission, to make signage changes, and yet to protect the historic district integrity as well. We formed the first business crime watch in the state for the business owners there, and we worked on walkability, increasing lighting, and attracting more businesses there. And we've gone from having something that is connecting the redevelopment of Main Street and the redevelopment of Bridge Street, where they joined, should have been a very strong location. And it is now a vibrant and bustling place with mixed use, and it has been very obvious to anyone in that area. We're adding Cotton Mill Square, extended the Riverwalk. Just these things are all coming together with the project for the sidewalks, and that is what I am most proud of when I look at my ward.
Thank you very much, Diane. Mark Cookson.
Thank you very much, Chris. I guess when I reflect upon what we've accomplished, we've done a lot of things together, and you've heard many items that have been discussed by these aldermen at large and potential aldermen at large. Most of them, as they relate to business, end up in front of the infrastructure committee, whether it be parking meters, whether it be the downtown parking district. All of them ended up in front of infrastructure. So what I'm most proud of is the open dialogue that takes place in my committee. Last night was a perfect example of that, as we took an issue, not necessarily business, but an issue that was on Concord Street, and we came together as a committee. What I'm most proud of is the communication that takes place, listening to the business owners as they come in and speak to us about the hardships, and then coming up with solutions that are going to benefit everybody. That's what I'm most proud of. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you very much, Mark. We'll now move to the ward candidates. Remember, we're asking the odd-numbered ward candidates, so we'll start with Paul Shea in Ward. I'm sorry, we're going to flip this around since we had Paul go first for that ward. We'll now hear from David first for Ward 3.
Thanks, Chris. When I think of business in Nashua, I think about downtown. Granted, there's a lot of businesses, a lot of different areas where business is located within Nashua, and they're all strong and vibrant. But I think that when someone thinks about the city of Nashua or any city, we think about what the downtown is like, and we've seen businesses closing downtown. I would like to do something to develop the downtown area as much as possible. We need pedestrian traffic down there. I've seen cities or city areas that have been depressed, and as they get revitalized, what seems to drive that process is pedestrian traffic. We need people walking around. Right now we've got 4 lanes of traffic that are, people are driving through. They're coming from the north to the south, south to the north. They're just driving through. I would like to see us do something about the parking issue. And we've talked about parking a lot. I don't claim authorship to some of these ideas, but I would sign up for them. An idea to get parking free off of Main Street so that people can park their car without worrying about a meter and walk around and enjoy downtown area. They can go to the mall. Downtown competes with the mall. And I want to get pedestrian traffic downtown. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Paul Shea.
I wholeheartedly agree that as far as Nashua goes, we've seen some fallout from the recession. That fallout hasn't affected our businesses up on Amherst Street and our businesses down on Daniel Webster nearly as much as it has affected our downtown. You've got Cooking Matters, you've got Saffron Bistro, you've got Studio 99. A number of places have closed in recent years, and it's an awful shame. We need to do more to encourage folks to want to come downtown by making it a livable, walkable community. There's a number of ways that we can do that. One of those ways is to develop a bicycle and pedestrian master plan linking all of our walking trails together. Another way is to address code enforcement, because there's an underlying issue where folks sometimes feel like they might have a preference where they would want to go to the mall or go down to Daniel Webster because of the perception of the quality of life in our downtown neighborhoods. If we can empower code enforcement to enforce code and do the things that it takes to enliven our downtown and make folks feel like they want to come live here, walk here, have leisure here, spend money here, then we'll have some success as things bounce back.
Thank you very much, Paul. We'll now turn to Ward 5, and we'll hear first from Mike Susi.
Thank you. I think there are things we can do to attract business. One of the things may be tax incentives. We look at a lot of the businesses like behind Five Guys, open for business. If you're looking at downtown, do you know why I go to Applebee's, really? It's a struggle to try to find parking downtown. We've got wonderful restaurants downtown, but to drive around 3 or 4 times to try to find parking, it's a shame. You look at that beautiful property across from the hospital, the old Brazilian restaurant, just a vacant lot, fenced up. So I think we need to address the parking issues downtown to increase business down there, and around the perimeter, tax incentives. We can bring up high-tech jobs from Massachusetts. They're there. Encourage them. Bring them up.
Thank you very much, Mike. Mike Tabasco.
Thank you, Chris. The question, I just want to go back to the single thing that I've been involved in, and with only 1 minute, I've got a lot of stuff to try and cover here. I've been torn here between the 2 projects that I've been very involved in are the downtown improvements, which dates back to the original bid committee, which was looking for ways to fund downtown improvements, and that has evolved over time to the current Downtown Improvements Committee. And the sidewalk and streetscape improvements that we're seeing now is something that I would have to rank as very high on my list of proud to be involved with. The other thing is, of course, the recent logo adoption by both the Chamber and the city, and we all see evidence of that everywhere tonight, and I was very happy to be a part of that. I would also point out, though, to my opponent that the tax incentives, as he has expressed it in his most recent statement, to the extent that the city can do that, there are districts that are in place, TIF districts, et cetera, and we're really not able to do tax incentives such as that.
Thank you very much, Mike. Ward 7 is unopposed again, so we're skipping over that one, going all the way to Ward 9, and we'll hear from Jeff Cox.
I get to go first again. As a business owner here in the city, I owned the 7-Eleven on Main Dunstable Road for 10 years, and I know what it takes to run a business here in the city. And to hear some of the aldermen say that there's not much we can do or do for the businesses here in the city, I think is absurd. I was a part of, when I was alderman, I was a part of a committee with the wonderful Mary Lou Blaisdell that I see over here, who owns a business downtown, and we worked diligently to listen to every one of the business owners, to the people of downtown, to economic and planning development. We all worked together to come up with a plan to help improve some of the situations that they had down there. We can do more of that, and in other areas of the city, and we need to continue doing that. We also had talked about improving the permitting process and some of the things to help businesses that want to come into this area. Make it easier for them to have a comprehensive package to be just handed to them, if approved, to make it easier to participate in our city. And I think we can do that.
Thank you very much, Jeff. We'll now go to the second question. This will be for all at-large candidates and for even ward-numbered candidates. The question will first go to Paula Johnson on the at-large, and then we'll swing around to Mark, and then David, you'll get the final response for the at-large candidates. Several of you have mentioned the downtown, and many of us obviously spend a lot of time here downtown. Certainly we have business owners and managers who are in the room here tonight who own shops and property downtown. So with that, I'd like to touch upon the downtown improvement project for a few minutes. And in the interest of full disclosure, I will make sure everyone knows that the Chamber of Commerce has on several occasions stated its support for the project. So I want to make sure everyone's aware of that in the interest of full disclosure as I give you the question. Given the level of support that many of us see among downtown merchants and across the city for the final results of the downtown project, what is your position on the downtown improvement project? Are you for it? And if so, what could we be doing more of to alleviate some of the pressure that we are seeing on some of the merchants? We saw Cooking Matters this past week as a case in point of some of that pressure that has been placed on merchants. So if you are in favor of the project, what could we be doing more of to alleviate some of that pressure? If you are against the project, are you against it because you don't like the results or because of inside politics? And by inside, I mean the way it's been managed at the city level, etc. With that, Paula, we'll have you answer that question first.
Thank you. The reason I am against it, let's get it out. I want to just make it very clear at the beginning. I think the employees are doing an excellent job. I think they've done an excellent job of what they had to work with. I'm not happy with all the trees that were cut down. I understand the reason why the trees were cut down as we go along with the project. But part of my problem with the project is inside City Hall. I don't feel that information, the figures were disclosed up front. My biggest problem was that the mayor showed us all the information except for labor. She had overtime labor, but she didn't have straight time labor. She showed how much it was going to cost for all the light fixtures, what it was going to cost for everything else. But the one thing, my biggest problem was that we didn't show labor. Labor is the biggest piece, the most expensive piece of any type of project. It is always labor.
Thank you very much, Paula. Dan Moriarty.
Thank you, Chris. You used the phrase, are you against it because of inside politics? Let's think of it differently. I'm not in politics. I'm in participatory self-governance. This is the reason municipal government exists is to serve a purpose, is to execute a function, is for everybody to get together and accomplish a task. It's a group effort. Now, the city charter gives the Board of Public Works and the chairman of the Board of Public Works full authority to do everything on all the streets in downtown. But when you have hundreds of people requesting that something be done, even if they're wrong, we as elected officials are obligated to answer every question. You have no choice but to pay your taxes whether you like it or not. You have to pay your taxes. We have to answer your questions. So whether it's brick or cement is not important. It's the process of inclusion.
Thank you, Dan. Barbara Presley.
Thank you. I love the downtown. I remember when it was called the Heart of Nashua, and I think it should still have that name. It was in extreme disrepair. It was dangerous. It was a liability. It needed to be fixed. I am proud of the work, and particularly the work that's taking place underneath the sidewalk, the utilities, the wiring that has been fixed. My problem is this. I believe that this project has changed the whole character of our downtown, and that is not in the purview of the Board of Public Works. They have, by charter, they have very, very strict guidelines of what they're allowed to do, and it's a regular sidewalk. They have changed the whole character without a plan, without a budget, and without any input. Some people love the design, some people hate the design. The problem is that it was done without pre-planning and without having professional designers to create it. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. Diane Sheehan.
Thank you. Given the final results, we haven't seen the final results, but what I've seen so far is much better. I used to get a lot of phone calls from people who got hurt on the bricks, particularly at night, because the lighting wasn't so good. Add that to an uneven foot surface, and I did get a lot of phone calls. What I have done to alleviate the pressure is made a point to travel the downtown daily. And when I'm driving through downtown, coming back from the dog park usually, and I come up West Hollis or from that area and come through the downtown, as I look, I see where the staging is, I see where the parking is. If there's issues, and there have been at times, I've made phone calls and asked, is that where we can really stage that? Maybe we ought to get off Saffron Bistro's parking lot and do that in the library parking lot, where it's only another 25 feet away. I mean, just little things like that, asking the businesses, how is this impacting you? What can we do better? That sort of thing, making sure employee trucks are on the side streets, not the main street. Different things like that I've tried to facilitate, just making sure that we're doing it good. Doing the best job that we can. One of the things I would like to see is the return of the brick. I don't think we could afford to do the whole thing in brick right up front, but I do think we could establish a trust fund, so when we do need to get underneath for something, we could replace that area with brick in a way that will last, so that it meshes with the design, which has brick accents. So I think there are ways to do this, get done what needs to get done, and the next time we need to break in, to bring back a bit more brick, because I am a fan of the brick, but I think it looks way better than it did before.
Thank you, Diane. Mark Cookson.
So do I have less than a minute now?
My apologies.
Sorry.
Oh, you have 1 minute left.
Oh, fantastic. Here I go. All right. So downtown sidewalk improvements. Do you like it? I think it looks good. Was I a fan of it when it was first suggested? Not necessarily, because as many people have stated, there is a character, there's an essence of character within the downtown that was the red brick. It was what made downtown Nashua. It looked fantastic. Do I like what I see now? Yes, it's growing on me. I think they're doing a very nice job. What my concern has always been is that the Board of Aldermen was writing a blank check for a project that we didn't know. There was no complete project. There was no plan for the entire span. $5 million over 2 years, is it 3 years now? I don't know. We still don't know. So I have to be prudent with my decisions based on the best information that I have, and that's to represent you. Also, what projects aren't being done as a result of all our resources going toward the downtown sidewalk improvement. Do I like it? Yes. I think we could have done a better job and planned it better by possibly staging some overtime or some evening staging to help out with our downtown businesses.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
David Dean.
I believe this was a question you asked on your questionnaire, right?
It was similar. Yep.
And my answer to you then, with the business people from the chamber, is how many business owners would just release $500,000 and every one of their employees out to do something that was no plan or no budget for? How many of your members would do that? They wouldn't be in business long. That's my problem. Does Main Street need to be repaired? There's no question. Are there unknown issues? There's no question about that. Was there a full and total design? Absolutely not. The problem is, I'm a big proponent of putting things out to bid. We have no idea what the cost is. We just continually throw $500,000 here, $500,000 there. We're buying equipment out of the capital equipment and reserve fund. I think, you know, the work needed to be done. I didn't like the process, and it would have been nice to explain to people what the design was so that you could answer the questions that were being asked. And no, I didn't go downtown and direct any of the staff on where to park their trucks or where to move their equipment or where to pile their material, because that's aldermanic interference. We're not allowed to do that. We can make recommendations and suggestions only.
Thank you, David. We'll now turn to Ward 2, and we'll hear first from Casey Crane. I believe Rick led off earlier, so hear first from Casey.
I think we spent too much money on this project. I have to apologize again. I have a terrible cold, so hopefully you can hear me. This is a great example of where we needed accountability. Absolutely, we needed to do something to fix the sidewalks. However, how do you do that? There are so many options today that we're not looking at. We did not have public participation in this, and we do not have accountability to this day about the spending of this project. I think there were a lot of other ways that we could have done this. We need to look at innovative ideas in government, like crowdfunding. They're doing this in London. They funded bridges. They funded roads. They funded things through crowdfunding. There are very many things that we could be looking at doing. We should not ignore the issue, but we also need to start asking the right questions and give the taxpayers accountability. Sorry again, I just have terrible cold. Thank you.
Thank you, Casey. We'll now hear from Rick Dowd.
Thank you. I'm just going to address the project and leave the other thing aside. The project needed to be undertaken, and it had the full support of all the business community. And I think one of the things is that people are resistant to change, and it is a change. Certainly I was living here when the downtown was done before. And I think that we shortchanged that project when we did it, because as we found out, we've got trees that are, the roots were getting into the infrastructure of the buildings and tearing up the sidewalks. The sidewalks were almost unwalkable. So I like what it looks like now, and I want to see it completed. I think what we have to do is focus on doing it efficiently and effectively, watch our resources, make sure it's cost effective, and I think we all, as a community, ought to help get the business, those small business owners, when this is going on, so that we can keep them in business and not have this affect them.
Thank you very much, Rick. We'll now turn to Ward 4, and we'll hear first from Arthur Craffey.
Thank you, Chris. I do support the project. I happen to walk when the projects were being proposed, the mayor and I both walked along with all the businesses in the affected areas and showed the businesses what was going to happen and everything like that. Something had to be done. The sidewalks were a mess. I had numerous complaints from constituents that walked down the park with the disabilities, tripping over bricks and falling. It had to be done. Tree roots, what you couldn't see were the tree roots that being grown under the brick into the vaults, destroying businesses, basements in the business and the city underground vaults. Should have gone out to bid? Yeah, probably. A better way to do it, and hindsight is always the better part of valor, I guess, is what they say. There could have been, excuse me while I check out my glasses. I guess we just have to watch our spending. I mean, we could have stopped it at the board level with the budget. We could have taken it out of the budget level at the board level if we were that concerned with it. But evidently, the project was going forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Arthur. Pam?
I think the sidewalk project is definitely attractive, but being on the frugal side, I think it's a bit extravagant, and I think we need to get our priorities straight. I've referred to the Main Street crosswalk as being a state of the wallet. I'm sure that was a pricey bit of equipment, and also I love the plants and the shrubs, but again, that's not only costly now, but for years to come. that will require maintenance and continuous improvement. So overall, oh, yes, and the transparency. My understanding is that the board was not very involved with the budgeting process, and some of the members just learned about the project when it was started, and I think that's just wrong. I think the board should be actively involved with such a huge project like that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Pam. We'll now move to Ward 6, and Paul, this time you'll lead off.
Thank you. I guess we can all agree that the downtown definitely needed some work. My job was to fund the project, which I did. My job was not to design it. My job was not to pick the bricks or concrete or anything like that, the street lamps. My job was to fund the project. I did it. The project falls under the Board of Public Works. So, with that being said, let's choose the right people for that board, that committee. We were not aware that, I thought they were going to send out RFPs to get construction companies to do the work. Grant you, it would have been done a lot faster than having our own city employees doing it. But we did it. This is the way it's been going. Perhaps when we move to the next block, we can take and put out some RFPs. But like I say, as a Board of Aldermen, we don't have any control of that. It falls under Board of Public Works. So choose your candidates for the Board of Public Work wisely. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Paul. We'll now move to Ward 8, and Jack, you'll lead off.
About Kathy.
Oh, I'm so sorry, Kathy. I skipped right over you. My apologies.
Yes, I was for the downtown sidewalks. I think it's great. I've spoken to many people in the city, and they love it. A lot of younger people, middle-aged people, they love to go downtown, which I think helps our businesses downtown tremendously, and I think it's been great. I do believe that if there had been more involvement, maybe it could have been done a little bit more cost effectively, which would have been good for the people in our community. Our community would have liked to see the cost go down. I will say, in talking to several people, the older people that I've spoken to, they do not like the parking meters. They do not like having to get out of their cars and going to the kiosk and putting in their credit cards and then walking back and putting it back in, and there's no handicap parking down there either. And I've also heard that it's dark, so with this, with the trees gone and there's no lighting where we used to do the Christmas trees, it was very warm and inviting. So now I hear it's dark, and so I hear mixed reviews, but I think it could have been done a little bit more effectively in cost, but I do approve of it.
Thank you, Kathy. We'll now turn to Ward 8, and Jack Currier, you'll lead off.
Not being a sitting alderman, I can't speak to the financing of it and how, whether the Board of Aldermen was included to a proper extent, as the question that you sent us earlier had. So I'm just going to speak to the downtown improvements. I've always been a fan of the downtown. I worked hard on the Conservation Commission at the early stages of the Riverwalk, and I think the completion ultimately of the Riverwalk and the sidewalks is going to be a big improvement for the city. I tell you, this is a fascinating issue as I canvass Ward 8. This is the only issue that doesn't fall along party lines, and it seems to be about the trees. Some people don't care about the trees. My wife and I, every time we're at Martha's, we're looking at those locust trees saying, why are there locusts here? And then there's other people who can't stand the fact that the trees were cut. So I'm in favor of it, and that's where I stand, and I hope it charges ahead in time for the holiday stroll.
Thank you very much, Jack. And finally, Marianne Mosigolia.
Thank you. I am in favor of the downtown project. I think that it was sorely needed, and I think everyone has listed the concerns people have raised about the state of our sidewalks prior to this. I think the one concern I had, and I'm still not sure we've worked this out, but others have mentioned it, is just accounting for the expenses. And I think that the size of this project and the nature of it, we really didn't have the systems in place in the city to initially account for the expenses as it related to overtime and use of equipment. So I think we were just caught without a system in place in doing this. Moving forward, I think the maintenance of this project is huge. And even as the trees grow, are we going to trim them? Because people have said to me, wow, it's great to see the front of the historic buildings. And you look at the existing trees and they're taller. So I think those things need to be determined. But at the end of the day, the Downtown Improvement Project is really about getting people down here to both live, so they're here 24/7, as well as pedestrian traffic during the day. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mary Ann. We'll now move to the next question. And Dan, this will be your first question for the at-large candidates, and then we'll move on to the ward candidates. I want to move a little bit off of business issues, but not maybe a little half and half here. A lot of us have been concerned about police-related concerns, whether it be crime, even the very small level stuff like panhandlers downtown on sidewalks, to vandalism, whether it be at Persian Rug Gallery very recently or sconces jewelry that seems to get hit a lot. So some of the smaller stuff all the way up to some of the spate of robberies that we've seen, and even murders in this city this year. The Board of Aldermen only has so much control, over the police department or interaction, but what can you as an alderman do to address police and crime-related issues here in Nashua?
Well, I'll address this quickly because I want to get back to the previous question. I've spoken to a few of the police and John Susing, who I'm friendly with. We lift weights at the same gym. And so I have an opportunity, not that most may have, is to ask questions about the details and inner functionality. And one of the things that's I'd like to relay is that, the idea that they already are, they put the police located in proportional to the amount of crime in a certain area. For instance, they have zones. For instance, a police zone or a district out in Ward 9, where I'm from, is much larger because the crime per capita is much lower, whereas a zone in downtown where they may have more crime per capita or per area is much smaller. So they do a good job of addressing that. But I just want to go back. I don't want to get a reputation of saying I don't like Main Street. I think Main Street's the best. I'm an old timer at heart. I probably spend more of my disposable income eating out on Main Street than as many people do here. I think it's great. And part of the reason why I get so emotional about what has happened with Main Street is because I've personalized it. It's good to emotionally disconnect yourself from the issues at hand so you can think logically, but sometimes I've loved the brick, I love Main Street, and it's mine, and so I get a little energized about it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dan. Barbara Presley.
Thank you, Chris. Well, crime is on the increase, crime of all different types, and it's different today. And I think the police are taking a different approach, and we must join them in this. The push today is to have citizens far more involved with what is going on in their neighborhood. During this campaign, I've distributed some of the crime line phone number. In fact, I have some here tonight if some of you would like them. They're magnets that you put on your refrigerator, and if you see something strange happening, now this doesn't mean it's an emergency, that's 911, but we all must be more alert, we must be vigilant, and we must call the police when we can let them know of something unusual happening in our neighborhood. And this is helping because what's happening is that other streets are calling on the same issue that you're calling on, and then the police can determine a pattern. I certainly support and will be working with the police to deal with this new type of crime and also with the panhandling. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. Diane Sheehan.
Thank you. As many of you know, I came to public service via involvement with Crime Watches because my house is at the edge of French Hill and we were having issues there. What I have found is by looking at it systematically with identifying where the problems are with the community and then approaching the police and trying to come up with game plans is the way to successfully address it neighborhood by neighborhood. And I've been very involved with different crime watch groups in Ward 3, collaborating and engaging with them to try to make sure that we have people involved when there's an issue. It's the best time to increase engagement, so we do that, as well as some of the things we've asked for as a board is for the police to give us feedback as to whether or not they have enough staff, because we haven't really increased that in a very long time, and it might be time to do that. When we do this and we work collectively, because the police can't be everywhere, we get a much better result. And although crime is rising in the rest of the city, in French Hill, for the last 3 years, we've trended down significantly on thefts and assaults and things that are generally a problem. The only thing that we've had an increase on is drugs, which is a state issue. We are the easiest state in the country to get prescription drugs, and that's where it needs to be addressed, and that's why we're having such a surge.
That is time. Thank you, Diane. Mark?
Thank you very much, Chris. So we've got two ways to address the issue of crime or working with the police in the city. And you've heard from Alderman Presley, you heard that we need to be engaged. And that's exactly what we need to do as citizens. We need to participate in the process and contact your police when you have an issue. Secondly, as a member of the Board of Aldermen and as a Board of Aldermen, we have to fund the police. And we have to, on a regular basis, engage in communication with them to understand what their needs are. So typically, we meet with the police once a year, right at budget season. They want this much money, and we have to say no to many of their needs. We cannot continue to communicate like this. We need to communicate on a more regular basis. We need to have them involved in our meetings at least quarterly, if not more frequently, so that we can understand what they're doing, how they're doing it, and what they need from us as support.
Thank you, Mark. David Dean.
Thank you. I'm not in law enforcement. I'm not educated in law enforcement. I've never been a police officer. I've never called the police department to give them directives. What I have done, however, is, you know, we look at law enforcement through what is brought before us. Those are the people you want to be listening to. You don't want to be listening to a lot of nonsense from a lot of people that have no idea what they're talking about. And quite frankly, we hear a lot of that. We hear a lot of that to the point of the ridiculous. I put my trust in the leadership we have at the Nashua Police Department. We speak with them during the budget process, and I agree with Alderman Cookson, and in one of the questionnaires, I think we should be meeting quarterly to get a better idea of how they're doing. But it's up to these trained professionals to lay out the plan and deal with the sector issues and take their resources. And if they need additional resources, then they'll come to us because they've done that before. And I do agree with Alderman Sheehan that we have a significant prescription drug problem in this, not in this state, but in this country, that is a problem.
Thank you, David. Paula Johnson.
Thank you. You know, we really need to support our police. Our police really are the backbone of this city when we have crime. When we are growing as a city, we need to remember that when you have growth, you have crime. I said that even when I was a member of the Board of Aldermen. We do have a drug problem in the city. We have a big prescription drug problem. We teach our children at an early age, when you have a headache, you take a pill, and you continuously take drugs. We need to fund the police. When I was an alderman, we didn't have crime like this, so the funding wasn't that high. But we need to keep it in the hands of the police, let them tell us when they come in if they need additional police officers, and then it's the board's obligation to fund it or not fund it. But when you have rising crime, the best thing is to fund the police department at this point in time. Thank you.
Thank you, Paula. We'll now turn to Ward 3. I believe it's Paul Shea's turn to go first.
So crime is a dynamic human behaviors issue. There are many ways that we can address it. It's funding the police. We had a recent meeting between the Board of Aldermen, the public, and the police department where they discussed that they are going to be doing a new analysis of their staffing needs, and it's going to be based on local data as opposed to a system that they've used previously. I'm interested in hearing that report and working with my colleagues to support them should I be elected. Addressing the issue of code enforcement will decrease blight in our neighborhoods. It will decrease the potential that folks who may not be in a caring state regarding their living environment don't come into those places, and that thing kind of transcends into the neighborhoods. Another way that we can address it is with the social issues. We've had a big cut to social services, and this is not in the purview of the Board of Aldermen. However, I've already been collaborating with state representatives to talk to them about issues that we face that contribute to crime, and I think that it would be good for the Board of Aldermen, all of us, to have a good relationship with our representatives to do the work that needs to be done at the state level.
Thank you, Paul. David Schoeneman for Ward 3.
Thanks. Crime certainly has been rising, and in my communications with voters in Ward 3 as I've been doing the campaign, I'm getting a sense of a bit of a disconnect between the needs of the ward residents and the activities of the police department. I fully respect the expertise and the knowledge of the police department. Nashua Police Department's great. They are doing everything that they possibly can. I think that a lot of times when I've spoken to a resident, they've complained about their car being broken into or something stolen from the garage. I'm not sure that they've had a sense that the police are fully there for them all the time. I think that communication between the public and police is going to be vital to solving any crime problems. I think that the Crime Watch meetings that are held in various neighborhoods are great. I'm very impressed with the police participation there and the help that they give to the public. I would also encourage members of Ward 3 or any part of the public to phone into the police if you have an issue, because they need to know what's going on in the neighborhoods, and we need to know what they're doing. Thank you.
Thank you, David. We'll now turn to Ward 5, and I believe it's Mike Tabasco's turn to go first.
Thank you, Chris. I think originally we talked about this issue, what can we do? And I can tell you that one of the things, or some of the things that we've done as a Board of Aldermen is we've made sure that we have one of the best, well-staffed, well-equipped, accredited, and truly professional police departments in Nashua. And I think the first thing we need to do is give them credit for solving a lot of what's going on. I mean, we see this headlines all the time, and you know, I think we need to take this in stride a little bit and recognize that we have already got a very good department on the job, and that I'm hopeful that over time we're going to see that some of this is more statistical anomaly than true problems that the crime wave is washing over us. So I'm not quite ready to say the sky is falling. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Mike Susi for Ward 5.
Okay, first of all, we didn't have this crime problem when I was on the force, just saying. Right. Bottom line, I'm not going to say how many patrol cars we have out there. I know how many we have out there. But each detective carries between 40 and 50 cases. When you're on patrol and you get in your patrol car, as soon as you're clearing roll call, 10-4 respond to. And you're going from call to call to call. So you're really a reactive force than proactive. We either have to pay for more police officers now, get them on the street, going with what we would call a broken window theory of taking care of the small stuff, the graffiti, the disorderly conduct, the drinking in public. Because there's a drug problem. You go after the small stuff, the big stuff will eventually start to fade away. So that's pretty much the thing at this point. We either pay now or we pay later, and I would hate to see Nashua turn into a city like a Lawrence or a Lowell down the road that's just totally out of control with crime.
Thank you very much, Mike.
I had more time.
We'll now go over to Ward 9, and we'll hear from Jeff Cox.
I couldn't agree more that we have one of the superior police departments in the state, if not in the country, that we do need to support and make sure that they have all the tools and all the things necessary. But having said that, there's a gentleman there, Ed Leishus, who's done a phenomenal job developing these community crime watch programs. And I think as Ward Alderman, there wasn't one in Ward 9 previous to me. And we did start one, and we were meeting over at May Nunsville Elementary. And granted, initially it started speeding through the neighborhoods and the simple things, but it's something that we can take and communicate to a whole new level. to inform them and teach them some of the things to help the police department learn more about what's going on in the community and the neighborhoods. And I think that would be a priority.
Thank you very much, Jeff. We'll now go back to a following question. We'll go back to the at-large candidates, and Barbara Presley, you'll lead off this time, and then we'll go to the even-numbered wards. I'd like to give you the opportunity to share with us why you think you are best qualified out of your share of the ballot, sitting there with 5 other candidates that are running for the very same seat. In other cases, it's just 2 of you. Why are you the better or the best qualified on your share of the ballot to be one of our aldermen? Barbara?
Well, I mentioned in the opening comment about the experience. I not only have the most life experience of anyone on the board, but I've lived in 3 foreign countries. I've traveled a lot. I think I'm well educated. I have 3 children, 3 grandchildren. My kids all graduated from the local high school. I think I'm vigilant. I'm not afraid to ask questions. I appreciate the hard work that people do, but my job is to get to the full story. Everyone who comes to you and wants some of your money, they're going to tell you what they want you to hear. And the key for me is to ask the appropriate question and try to get the full story. So I'm not afraid to speak up. I think I'm fearless, and I'm fair, and I'm a good listener. And so I think I've done a really good job, and I'd be happy to continue. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. Diane Sheehan.
Thank you. This is also similar to a question you asked, so I'll start with that. My business experience required me to use positive incentives for desired results, and only positive incentives. And the same holds true in the horseshoe and in the community. There's nothing that we can do to penalize someone. We can only incent someone to get a desired outcome. I have worked very collaboratively. I have a good relationship with stakeholders in the community, my constituents, and the administration, and that's from my business background. If you want to work with someone, you make a way to make it happen. I work to move things forward. Additionally, I am a mother of 2 that are in the public elementary schools, and I believe that I'm the only sitting alderman that can say that. So everything that we do that affects the quality of the schools, I see on a daily basis. And I think that unique perspective is very important because it balances some of the things we need to consider to attract families and businesses to Nashua.
Thank you, Diane. Mark Cookson.
Thank you, Chris. So why am I best qualified for this? Well, hopefully you'll state that on November 5th. The reason why I think I'm best qualified is because I come with an open mind. I come with 2 ears and 1 mouth. I'm a very active listener. I'm going to listen more than I speak because I'm not interested in hearing myself speak. I don't have to hear myself speak. What's important is that I take your voice and I represent it on the Board of Aldermen. So as an active listener, as a transparent communicator, this is why I think that I'm best qualified, because each one of us have a variety of backgrounds, and those backgrounds help us understand, put us in a context of your issues, your concerns, but it's the ability to listen, to synthesize what you've said, and then to represent you. That's why I'm best qualified. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. David Dean.
I'm not going to put a lot of fluff on my background. I'm a high school graduate, blue-collar worker, raised 5 children, and, you know, I think I come with a little reasonableness to the board. I work hard for my money, and there's a lot of people out there that, you know, struggle, and I want to make sure that, you know, we're getting the best return on their tax dollar. I spend a lot of time reading. I've learned an awful lot about city government in the last near 12 years. And I think of any of my colleagues, when we have questions, they always seem to turn to me about any budget questions or line items or things like that, because I know the system. And that's what it's all about. It's all about money and affordability. And I think that I have that oversight. The rest of it is, you know, is fun to do, but it's all about the money.
Thank you, David.
Thank you.
Paula Johnson.
Thank you. Little background, I was a business owner for 15 years, and in 2005, my husband and I sold our business. 3 grown children now. They watched me move up in the city from Board of Ed to Board of Alderman to state rep. What do I bring back to the board? Common sense, number 1. You need common sense and a smart thinker on the board. Accountability, you need to hold people's feet to the fire and hold them accountable for every question, every action. When they want to spend money, you ask the tough questions. I'm an independent thinker. I'm not a rubber stamp for anybody, and most of the people who know me, I'm not shy at all. I don't have a problem walking up to you any place, introducing myself, and listening to everybody, and listening to their ideas, listening to the complaints. And I love talking to people and being around them. I'm a people person. I demonstrate civility. I would never, ever be rude to any constituent at any time. The people vote me in, the people vote me out. And that's how I stand. And I always thank the people for electing me and talking to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Paula. Dan Moriarty.
I like people. It's simply, that's it. It's the same reason I like going door to door. I just like to walk up and ring a doorbell and talk to the person, find out what it's like to live their life, be invited inside their living room and sit down and talk about how they've seen me on TV and they're so glad that I'm doing what they wish they could do or they want to do, and they're glad that I'm there. I don't have an agenda. I'm not trying to impose my opinion on anybody. I'm not trying to do any of that. I like working with people. I like listening to them, and I feel as long as I'm paying attention that I can. Communication's difficult, and as long as I'm listening to find out not just what you're saying, but really what do you mean and really what do you want, and then that helps me get a better idea of how to represent you.
Thank you very much, Dan. We'll now move to the ward candidates, and we'll be with the even-numbered wards. So, Rick Dowd, you'll lead off with Ward 2.
Thank you. I've lived in Nashua my entire life. I come from both sides of my family, lived here all of their lives. I've been 30 years involved in local government, making decisions at the airport authority, working with the federal government, the FAA, on the zoning board, making decisions on zoning cases, 10 years on the Board of Education, making educational decisions, and certainly making decisions on one of the largest portions of the city budget, and then the Board of Aldermen. I'm still liaison from the Board of Aldermen to the Board of Education, and I'm the chair of the Joint Special School Building Committee, and we have been revitalizing our schools here in Nashua to have cleaner air, greater safety for our students and our staff, and I think that's very important, and I'd like to keep bringing those talents to the Board of Aldermen.
Thank you, Rick. Eleanor Casey Crane.
I was on the Education Committee in the House of Representatives I was in the House for 3 terms. I also have been an organizer in our city for a long time as a volunteer. When 9/11 happened, I went to Mayor Streeter and I asked him if we could do something in a month. He said, if you want to chair it, we'll do it. We put together a committee, and in less than a month, really almost exactly a month, we had a 5,000-person event that was covered nationally outside of the high school. Many of you may have remembered attending that. That was put together in a month. I subsequently chaired the next 9/11 event. I also came up with an idea of doing a presidential essay contest, which I ran in 15 schools in Nashua for 3 years prior to being elected to the State House. I am an organizer and I'm a communicator. Right now I don't sound very good because I'm old, but I will tell you that we have 3 crime watch programs in our ward. No one knows they're there because our ward doesn't have ward meetings. I will have 2 ward meetings so that those crime watch programs, 3 of which overlap our ward, can give reports on what's happening in our district.
Thank you very much, Casey. We'll now move to Ward 4, and I believe it's Pam's turn to lead off this time. Pam Brown.
Well, I believe that I'm the best candidate because I believe in fresh perspectives and new blood. I believe they bring new ideas, new ways of doing things to any organization. I've also had a varied career. I worked both in corporate environments and in human services. I've worked particularly in treatment programs, and I know personally that, you know, addiction is a disease, and they're not bad people, sick people, and we can give people help to rebuild their lives. Also, I have more time available with my life. I'm not working a full-time job out of town, and I'll have more time to develop regular meetings, monthly, hopefully, Crime Watch meetings, and just meet with the constituents. And I'd like to bring the state reps. As a state rep, I'd like to bring us all together, the state reps and the aldermen, to listen to our wards. Thank you.
Thank you, Pam. Art Craffey for Ward 4.
Oh, excuse me, but I do attend all the ward meetings, and I do also, being working out of town, I do take objection to the implementation that I don't attend all my meetings. I do take objection to that, so I would expect an apology. Thank you. I feel that I'm a better candidate. I do attend all my meetings. I do communicate. I attend all the ward meetings, unless I have a council meeting, an alderman meeting attended to. I do attend that. I'm a better candidate. I bring a unique perspective. 25 years plus years in the military, 30 plus years of leadership in senior management and skills. I'm a baseball umpire. You learn by doing that. You learn how to take pressure and to understand things, make decisions under pressure. You can't learn that in school. You can't learn that being nicey to anybody. All right, that's what happens. You need to understand that to make decisions. I'm a listener. I take both sides, listen to both sides. All of a sudden, I'll make my decision. I don't talk a lot in the committees. I end up listening to both sides, come to an informed decision, and from there, I make an informed decision on my ward.
Thank you very much, Art.
Thank you.
We'll now go to Kathy.
Yep. I'd like to apologize. That certainly was not my intention. Thank you.
Thank you, Pam Brown. We'll now go to Ward 6, and Kathy, you'll lead off.
Well, let me say that I'm excited. Okay, I am really excited because I am out on the streets every day selling real estate, talking to people. I understand the issues. I know the hardships that many families are facing, the financial concerns, and it's a pleasure for me to get out and help people achieve their goals and to mitigate and solve problems. And I know that I can do that for this board and for the city of Nashua. I love people. I'm a great listener. I'm an independent thinker. And I have a lot of experience for leadership training that stands behind me, serving on the board of directors for the Greater Manchester Nashua Board of Realtors. And I'm excited to get out there and talk to all the people in my ward and see what their issues are. And it has been really interesting, and I feel really, ready for the challenge.
Thank you, Kathy. Paul Chassey for Ward 6.
I'm not going to say I'm a better candidate than my opponent. To me, that's kind of tacky. I will let the people in my ward decide that on election day. But I will stand by my track record. I have funded many of things in the city of Nashua. This city hall needed repairs. I gave a yes vote. Downtown needed to be repaired. I gave a yes vote. We bought that building on Crown Street. We didn't need that. That was a want, not a need. I did not vote for that. I was worried that we were going to end up same thing like the Broad Street Parkway, where we purchased 10 extra houses or 10 or more houses that were not needed for the project. Now we got to turn around, we got to sell these houses back. Check my track record. You'll see that I vote for the things that are needed and not the ones that are wants. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. We'll turn to Ward 8. I believe it's Mary Ann's turn to lead off. Am I correct?
Okay. Thank you. I think that what I bring to the table is I'm a listener, I'm a collaborator, and I'm a problem solver. I also believe it's important to get information out and serve as a resource. As the alderman from Ward 8, I have tried to make sure that my constituents are aware of what's going on in the city and respond to their requests for information and services from me. I believe that my involvement in the community, both at the local level and the state level, has given me an opportunity to understand the resources that are available and to enter into collaborations with different stakeholders within the community, as well as provide a resource to my constituents and help them get their needs met. I think that, as I stated earlier, I have the time, and I am willing to make the commitment again for 2 years.
Thank you, Mary Ann. Jack Courier for Ward 8.
Yes, I'm going to address the question as terms of what I bring and let the voters decide who the better candidate is. Back in 2003, I don't know if many folks remember about the pink flamingos on all the lawns, and that the zoning board was on the front page of the Telegraph quite frequently. And that's when I decided to leave the Conservation Commission and help out on that board. Several years, and over the 10 years, I think that we've done a great job. And the cases that have gone to court, Nashua has handily won. And you don't hear a lot about zoning, and that's because it's been working. This is a split country, it's a split city, it's a split ward, and it's a split board. And I've demonstrated that I've been able to work with my counterparts and move decisions forward. And that's why I'm running for this position. If you've watched me on TV, you'll see that I always give my opinion. I always have everybody in welcome to the microphone, and I will be bringing that to the board if I'm elected. Thanks.
Thank you, Jack. I'm going to try to squeeze in one more question here, and I'm going to call an audible while doing it. This is going to be a 30-second response rather than a full minute. That should allow us to get one more question in and then closing statements and still be out by 8 o'clock. So again, 30 seconds for this response, and it's kind of a fun question. The city and the chamber worked over the last couple of years to launch a new brand for our city, Dare to Begin. We formally launched this just a few weeks ago. Within that context, I'd like to hear from each of you, the at-large candidates and the odd-numbered ward candidates tonight. If you could, remove money as an issue. Remove your normal restrictions. What is the one thing that you would like to see Nashua have in terms of daring to take us to the next level? Is it a facility? Is it a project, an initiative of some sort? What would that be? It's 30 seconds. Diane?
It would be nice to have an entertainment venue, a reason for people to come to Nashua. I think once you start coming to Nashua, you want to be here. For us as a family in '73, that was the park system. But I think right now, going to Manchester, going to Boston, it's difficult. We need to get the rail here. It needs to go right to the venue, and so people can get in and get out, because it's difficult to go to Boston or to Foxwoods at a venue via public transportation. Time.
Thank you, Diane. Mark Cookson.
An arts and culture venue, I think, would absolutely be wonderful to have a venue to just emphasize the arts and the culture that we have in this community. I'm the liaison to the Arts and Cultural Arts Commission, and I think that's what we need to publicize the music, the visual arts, the Nashua Symphony. Give them a place to, a proper venue besides the Elm Street Middle School.
Thank you, Mark. David Dean.
I'm going to speak from the little people's perspective, because not many people represent them. I think the little people need another sheet of ice down at Conway Ice Arena. Eventually, somehow, some way, someday, that area is going to end up being a recreational facility through and through. And we had talked about it. I mean, if you ask for pipe dreams, a true Olympic-sized swimming pool that we can actually hold events at is what's also needed in this community. Aquatics is huge. A lot of kids swim, and I'm sure they'd like to swim somewhere where it wasn't 4 o'clock in the morning while they're going to practice.
Thank you, David. Paula Johnson.
Thank you. I'd like to see more businesses come into Nashua, not so much retail. some high-skill quality jobs, because I think once we bring that in, then you can take a look at other different venues to come into Nashua, maybe the rail, maybe an art center, anything else. But I think we really need that quality jobs, because retail just doesn't cut it anymore. You can't buy homes, you can't have quality life at $8, $9, $10 an hour. You need to have some high-skill quality jobs to be brought back into Nashua.
Thank you, Paula. Dan Moriarty.
Well, the obvious ones are that I've always, as a member of Friends of Symphony Nashua, I had a art center, obviously a commuter rail station, but you know what? This is an increasingly urban town, and what we need are jobs for people to step up into. We have 40% free and reduced in our educational system. We need jobs at the level for them to step up. A huge factory somewhere to give good paying, unskilled labor to help our economy.
Thank you, Dan. Barbara Presley.
Well, for those of you who know me, I have to say the rivers. I think that the Nashua River is an untapped resource. I think if we were to highlight that, to use it in a more creative way, that would create jobs, that would be a focal point for downtown. And I was so pleased that the Dare to Begin, in their logo, that they had the rivers be part of that logo, because that's why we're here. Historically, we are in Nashua because the transportation and brought to us by the rivers. So we have this wonderful resource. Let's better use it. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. David Schoeneman for Ward 3.
Okay, thanks. I want to see Nashua grow in a way that lasts for a long time and is sustainable. I think that I like the idea of the Arts Center, but it brings people in and then they go home. And we might end up with people coming here for the nightlife, not for the work life. I would like to see the development of strong industry here in Nashua so that people come here to live here and to work here.
Thank you, David. Paul Shea for Ward 3.
I bought my home in French Hill in 2009 because I love downtown and it was such an attractive place to me. I think that we can be doing more to make it a more attractive place. My wife and I spent our one-year anniversary up in Manchester at the Palace seeing Rent. We had dinner at Firefly. We spent a good chunk of change up there. If we had an art center in the city of Nashua, I believe that it would be a boon for our economy downtown, and I wholeheartedly believe that if we can do the things that Manchester has done to enliven Elm Street on Main Street, then we can have an even better place to live, work, and play.
Thank you, Paul. Mike Susi for Ward 5.
Thank you. I'd like to see more affordable retirement communities with an activity center and placed in a neighborhood where they feel safe. For example, the elderly place or the community by Palm Street, they're afraid to walk. You put a drug dealer and a senior citizen, not a good mix. And the good thing about putting these type of retirement communities here, it's not a drain on our schools. They're not bringing young children with them.
Thank you very much, Mike. Mike Tabasco for Ward 5.
Thank you. I appreciate everybody else's comments because I've long been an advocate for getting commuter rail here to Nashua. I think that has endless economic development potential, and all of the things we're talking about kind of drives off of that. I think you would have the ability then to look at a true performing arts center. In the meantime, I think things that we can do on a somewhat smaller scale is the continued expansion of the Riverwalk, incorporate bike trails into more of our entire area, and I also agree that Exit 5 recreation area is very important for further development.
Thank you, Mike. Jeff Cox for Ward 9.
I agree that an art center would be fantastic, but I would love to see us be able to do a much better job, either taking our Parks and Rec department to a whole new level, embracing our natural resource here. I mean, we have a gem in Mines Falls right in the middle of our city. The trails, the waterways. I'd love to see kayak rental, bike rental, programs that are family-oriented, that everyone can participate in, and really enhance Dare to Begin.
Thank you very much, Jeff. We're now going to go into closing statements. We will actually reverse the order of opening statements. So, Jeff, we're going to come right back to you in Ward 9, work our way up through the wards, and then end with the at-large candidates. We're at 16 minutes, guys. Let's see if we can do this. Jeff, you start.
I'll be quick. I've come to the realization that I'm a person that likes big challenge and great reward. 5 years serving in the United States Marine Corps, 10 years as a business owner here in Nashua. Of course, it was 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. It was challenging. And then serving 4 years on the Board of Aldermen. Probably the most challenging, but great reward. Great reward. Meeting the citizens, working with the people that we have here in the city of Nashua. We have great employees, great citizens. It was very rewarding, but also I think I mentioned 3 things earlier, and I'll probably change the words a little bit, but morality, civility, and respect that I'll bring to the office. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jeff. Jack Currier for Ward 8.
Like I say, I've spent 16 years serving the city, and I've enjoyed it. I've grown, and I look forward to serving the city in other capacities in the future. I'd like it to be the Board of Aldermen here in Ward 8. Again, I think I've demonstrated that I've worked well with the other folks on the board, and I think I do so on this board just as well. I was kind of horrified when a friend of mine who I served with on the Conservation Commission for many years gave me a call, and she thought I was part of a vast right-wing conspiracy to overthrow the Board of Aldermen. And I'm not making that up. I'm like, is this Hollywood or Nashua? All I can say is I'm Jack Currier from 6 New Searles Road, and I just serve the city because I want to make it a better place to be. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Jack. Mary Ann Melizzi-Golia for Ward 8.
Thank you, Chris, and thank you to you and the Chamber for hosting this evening. I would like to continue serving as the Alderman from Ward 8. I believe that I have grown in my knowledge of city government and combined that with the knowledge of the community to serve the residents of Ward 8. Since elected 4 years ago, I've worked very closely with the residents of Ward 8 around the development of the Flatley property to make sure that their interests are protected and that they are fully involved in that development as it moves forward and impacts not only the abutting neighbors but all of that Exit 1 area that is being developed. I also believe that as we talk about crime in the city, I probably bring a unique perspective on crime because as the chair of the Juvenile Parole Board for the state of New Hampshire, I have an opportunity to listen to families and youth across the state talk about what services they need, and it's helped me gain a better perspective of how families need to be supported, and in talking with the chief about the importance of
And that is time,
prevention.
Mary Ann.
Thank you.
Thank you. Kathy Snyder for Ward 6.
This evening. It's been wonderful. I've learned a lot already. I look forward to meeting as many neighbors as I can in the next few days until the election. And in the meantime, if you'd like to help me out in campaign or if you have a good sign location, I would love that. And I would also like to vote. So thanks for coming out tonight, and I look forward to meeting many more of you.
Thank you, Kathy. Paul Chassie for Ward 6.
Yes, in the last 5 years, I spent some long nights down in that horseshoe. And I really enjoyed that, but that's not the big reward. The big reward is when you help one of your constituents in your ward, like the people on Lawndale Avenue. They finally got their street paved. Like the lady on Adelaide Street where the city of Nashua repaired her curbing. Those are the people. That's what counts. Downstairs, long hours. People, the constituents that are happy, you did one good thing for them, they're the ones that count. And with that, I hope to see him on Election Day. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Mike Susi for Ward 5.
Thank you very much. First of all, I do want to thank my opponent, Mike Tabasco, for 8 years of dedicated service. Why anybody would do 8 years or want 10, I don't know, but good for him. My whole campaign is about schools and public safety. I think it's very, very important. If our schools are underachieving or if crime continues to explode, people in business aren't going to want to live here. They're going to move out. I think that's very, very important. Being a police officer, retired police officer and firefighter, I understand the balance of providing excellent service, but also providing the interest of the taxpayers of not overspending. For 24/7, for 23 years, 24/7, when you called, I came. It might have been in your basement for a fire. It might have been taking a drunk off the street, but I came. Today I'm calling and asking for your help. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Mike Tabasco for Ward 5.
Thank you, Chris, and again, thanks for having us here, and thanks everybody for coming out. It is an honor and a privilege to serve on this Board of Aldermen. I want to make it clear that I am ready, willing, and able, and I humbly ask you to send me back for another term as the Ward 5 Alderman. I've worked hard to represent all of the residents of Ward 5, and I do enjoy the challenge of helping my fellow citizens navigate what at times can seem like a real maze of city government. I've learned the ropes, and I've developed solid and effective working relationships throughout the city. I have and will continue to respond promptly to all constituent issues and remain committed to ensuring the effective and efficient delivery of all government services. My approach is based on a successful business background, a strong work ethic, and common sense, all of which makes me the most effective voice for my fellow residents in Ward 5 and across this great city. Please vote for me, Mike Tabasco, for Ward 5 Alderman on November 5th. And remember, if I win by only one vote, I just hope that one vote is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Let's now go to Arthur Craffey from Ward 4. I'm sorry, we'll start with Pam Brown from Ward 4.
How can I beat that one? First of all, I'd like to thank Arthur for your dedicated service for many years, and I did apologize for what I said. I believe I will bring a fresh perspective to Ward 4, and I'd like that opportunity also to bring our leaders together, bring the aldermen and the state reps together so we could all work and just have a better state. I love this state. I love this community. I ask for your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Pam. Art Craffey for Ward 4.
Thank you. I just ask for your vote. I'd like you to send me back for a third term. I just want to thank the people in Chautauqua when I got their street taken care of. When I first got on, I took care of Interval Street, and with the signage, with the stop sign problem, with the parking problems. We got the no throughway sign up on Fairmont Street this past week. When you ask a question, when you ask for a problem, I'm there. You ask the question, you ask me to do something, it gets done. I have done many things. I'm determined to get things done when you call me. I make sure that I have integrity. I don't go with the crowd. I don't follow the crowd. And I'm honest. If you tell me and ask me to do something, I'll tell you right off the bat if I can do it or not. And if it's negotiating through the crowd that you need, we're all set. I just want to close in saying that this is a quote that I have in my book. It sits there, and it's a guiding principle behind my philosophy. And it says, "Speak up for those who cannot speak for themselves, for the rights of all those who are destitute. Speak up and judge fairly. Define the rights of the poor and the needy." It's from Proverb 33:8-9. That's what I use to guide my decisions. Thank you.
Thank you, Art. Dave Schoeneman for Ward 3.
Thanks, and thanks everybody for coming out tonight. It's a pleasure and a privilege to be able to speak with you. I've thoroughly enjoyed walking the neighborhoods through Ward 3. I have to tell you, I'm outside my comfort zone when I do that. But every time I knock on a door and have a chance to share a story with someone in Nashua, I learn something about their life. I learn something about their concerns for the city, and I hear from people who really love this city. I too love this city. I'm anxious to bring those voices to City Hall. I bring an analytical mind, problem solving, negotiation, cooperative skills to the table, and I'm looking forward to serving those folks that I've had the privilege of getting to know. Thank you, and I look forward to having your vote if you're from Ward 3 on November 5th.
Thank you, David. Paul Shea for Ward 3.
I graduated from Bishop Girton in 2002. I graduated from the nursing program at now Rivier University. It was college then. In 2007, I chose Nashua when I bought a home in 2009. My wife and I live here. We're invested in the community, and all of the things that I've done with friends and neighbors to promote quality of life here, I will continue to do. I want to do that in a greater capacity because we want to raise children here. This is kind of business focused tonight. Something that I'm very interested in supporting is our education system, and I think it needs to be made a priority. That being said, 1 minute isn't nearly enough time to tell you everything I'd like to tell you. And if you could go to www.electpaulshea.com, you can find more about my candidacy and where I stand on the issues. there's also many opportunities there for folks to connect with me. I want to hear from you. My email address is paulwshea@gmail.com. My phone number is 603-508-0687. And I welcome
time.
anybody who wants to reach out. Thank you.
Casey Crane for Ward 2.
World Series.
Gentleman, I like him very much. I just don't agree with him on the issues, and I think we have different strengths. We have a different perspective. Towards that, I will ensure that everything goes to bid. I think everything should go to bid. I would not vote for the Crown Street property until we're sure what's happening with rail. You don't borrow money to purchase property unless you absolutely have to and you know everything's already in place. I also think I bring innovation. I've read a lot of articles about innovation in city government. What they are doing in London is not pie in the sky, it's real. They're using government money, they're putting up a match for crowd funding. They have social media companies that will do this and will work with the city. They are funding business incubators, they are funding streets, they are funding bridges. I am on the cutting edge of a lot of what's happening in government as a result of having been a state representative for 3 terms and my general interest. I also have a 5-year-old who is a member of the public school system. He goes to kindergarten at Charlotte Ave Elementary. Thank you for your time, and I ask you for your vote.
Thank you, Casey. Rick Dowd for Ward 2.
Yes, I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight, and thank you for having this meeting. I do enjoy helping the people of Ward 2. The most amazing one was in a pouring rainstorm. Mrs. St. Jean and Thornton Road called me. I went over in the middle of a torrential downpour to see how the street was flooded, and hopefully with BPW getting that fixed. Just wanted to say that I think I bring unique skills to the Board of Aldermen, particularly in the area of education, and bring my 10 years experience with the Board of Education to the Board of Aldermen, and also in the school projects that we have under the Joint School Building Committee. Also, I have a background in military, as having served on submarines and surface warfare. So I certainly know how to make decisions in a timely manner and take all the facts in and make a great decision that needs to be made. Having said that, the most important message I have tonight is please get out and vote. It sometimes really hurts me to think that we get such a small turnout on these elections. Please get out and vote for the candidate of your choice.
Thank you very much, Rick. We're now going to go to the at-large candidates. It is 7:57, so if the Alderman at-large candidates want to show how well you work together, you can all keep yourself to 30 seconds. It's not a mandate, it's only a suggestion. Diane Sheehan.
Thank you, and thank you for your attention tonight. I think we need somebody looking out for our community and our ability to attract families and businesses. I collaborate with constituents, administration, and stakeholders, giving really good service, and I work very hard, and I'd like to continue to do that. As a homeowner and a parent, I know that using my business experience, I can balance limited resources against quality of life and our return on investment. Workplace practices for conducting business are needed at City Hall to effectively run our city. Building consensus, removing obstructions to success, and working towards measured goals will maximize our economic recovery and improve the quality of life for those who live and work here. This is my goal, and I need your support. On November 5th, please check off Diane Sheehan, Alderman at Large, and if you'd like a sign for your yard, please see me after the debate. Thank you.
Thank you, Diane. Barbara Presley for at large.
Thank you for this forum. A benefit that you all might not realize is that each one of us has learned a little bit more about each one of us. It's very, very informative and helpful for us to be together and to have this opportunity. I believe that I'm approachable, I'm experienced, dedicated, independent, fair, and fearless. I would be happy to serve again. I have the time to do it. I ask for your vote. And I'd like to end with saying, dare to begin.
Thank you very much, Barbara. Dan Moriarty for at large.
The chairs we sit in the aldermanic chamber are drawn randomly. And it just so happened that where I sit, I happen to be, many cases during those roll call votes, the people to my left tend to be like-minded, and I'm often the first person to stick my neck out and say no, and I can tell you it's tough sometimes. But going door to door, hitting that 3,200th door on French Hill at 6:30 at night in the dark, and the person coming up and I say, "Hi, I'm Dan Moriarty," and they just light up and invite us inside. Made it all worth it. So it's been an amazing experience, let me tell you, campaigning. Meeting everybody, every nook and cranny of the city, regardless of the outcome, it's all been worth it.
Thank you, Dan. Paula Johnson for at-large.
Thank you. Thank you, Chris, the Chamber, and everybody for coming here tonight. We need an elected official that demonstrates civility, and I am the one. We need elected officials that have proven track record of working with our seniors, veterans, and the community as a whole, and I am the one. I just want to mention a few achievements while on the Board of Aldermen. I sponsored, and it was passed, increased tax credits for service-connected total disability. I sponsored, moved to require the mayor to deliver the State of the City address to the alderman. I sponsored, increased tax credits for veterans. I sponsored, increasing the handicap fine and signage for requirements. I sponsored amended guidelines for non-public sessions. I sponsored charter change to allow for signing as many nominated petitions as there are opens. I was instrumental in building the senior center that we have today. So on November 5th, please vote for Paula Johnson, number 3 on the ballot for Alderman at Large, and return me to City Hall. Thank you.
Thank you, Paula. David Dean for at-large.
I thought I was the primary sponsor of the legislation for the Senior Activity Center. Oh.
I was instrumental.
That was a good project, Mr. Williams.
Yes, sir.
That was my first dealings with Mayor Lozo at the time when we put the housing on. I remember Don Decker coming up to me at the time and saying, "We need some help with our facility." I went over there and looked at it, and I told him, I said, "I wouldn't give you a penny for this place." He said, we started talking, got together with the board, we tore the building down, and you drive by and you see what our seniors have today, which is awesome. It's a great facility. I'm not one to tout all my weekend partying at different events and stuff. You can find me pulling weeds up in front of Holman Stadium or things like that. I'm just a regular person. I enjoy serving. It's been interesting. I think I bring a voice of reason and a perspective to the board that we need. It's too much deafening silence at times, this term anyways. I like it when I understand people's positions. And Dan, I did sit in that seat, and Dan, I have said no from that chair, so don't feel alone.
Thank you, David. Mark Cookson for at-large.
Thank you, Chris, and thank you to the Nashua Chamber of Commerce, as well as the citizens who have shared your evening with us. Thank you so much for that. I ask for your vote and your support because we continue to need active listeners on the Board of Aldermen. We need transparent communicators, and we need people who ask the difficult questions and demand accountability. I want you to know that as a son, as a husband, as a father, and as a Rotarian, I will always look out for your best interest. These are attributes that I think will continue to serve us well on the Board of Aldermen. You need somebody that is an active listener, somebody that's going to ask those questions. It will serve the board well, it will serve the community well, and it will serve you well. I ask for your vote on November 5th. Thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Thank you, Mark. Ladies and gentlemen, we came close. It's 8:03. You have 4 minutes until the first pitch. I ask that you move calmly to the exits. In all seriousness, I want to thank the candidates who took 2 hours of their time here to be with us tonight. Thank you. I also want to make sure everyone knows there are surveys that each candidate filled out on the table behind you. We will be posting those on the Chamber's website this Monday. So starting Monday, you can find those same surveys electronically on the NashuaChamber.com website. Have a great night, everyone.
Yes.
The preceding program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.